My name is Sam. I'm the Partnerships and Communications Manager at Fairygodboss. And if you didn't already know, Fairygodboss is the largest career community for women. Our mission supports women throughout their careers with a ton of great free resources like anonymous company reviews, job listings, articles, virtual recruiting events, and so much more. And we do it all just to help you succeed. So before we get started, we'll be taking questions throughout today's webinar. I know we have a few that we got ahead of time. We'll be sprinkling those in, so be sure to listen for them. And if you have any throughout, feel free to leave them in the Q&A feature. You can also leave them in the chat. I'll be checking both, but the Q&A is definitely the best way to make sure your question gets answered. And you can leave a question as yourself or anonymously, so feel free to ask whatever is on your mind. We'll also be recording today's webinar and sending it out in a follow-up email later today. So if you miss anything and you want to rewatch it back later, you will have the chance to do so. Here with me today is Belma. And Belma, I'd love for you to introduce yourself to everyone.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Sam. And hi, everyone. I'm Belma. I'm the CEO and founder of Work Bigger, and I'm also leadership and career coach. Work Bigger, for anyone who's not yet familiar with it, is a career coaching platform, and we offer support via group coaching membership, private coaching, and also we work with organizations to offer trainings, workshops on professional development. Sam, would it help if I went a little bit into my background, why I started it, my training and coaching and all that good stuff?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Awesome. Okay, so I started Work Bigger because of a personal pain point. I would say I spent all of my 20s feeling I was really, really ambitious, but really disconnected from my work. I knew that I wanted my work to be a vehicle for impact, but I didn't know what that looked like. I really struggled to find my purpose. And as a result, confidence was a huge issue for me. Things like growth mindset, all of that stuff. I wasn't there in my 20s, and as a result, really struggled to navigate the career world. After about, going through those pain points for about 7 years, I decided to go back to business school. And at the time, and I think that still happens too, like everybody's like, okay, I need a career pivot. Let me consider grad school. I made the choice to go back full time, and that's where I saw that all of my classmates, myself included, we were all kind of in the same boat. We were looking at business school as our do-over and as our way of pivoting. And I realized it's kind of crazy. We're all like spending all this money and all this time. I gave up a pretty good salary to go back to school full time, and we didn't even know if we were going to get what we needed when we graduated. We were kind of like keeping our fingers crossed and hoping that we would. So that's kind of where I saw, I was like, there's a bigger issue here. We're not really asking the bigger, deeper questions that are really needed to figure out what we want with our careers. Everybody's talking about finding their passion, but that's not doing it. That's just confusing us even more. So Work Bigger was born really as a way to solve this problem. And before running Work Bigger full time, I spent about 10 years in media. I've worked at companies like Condé Nast, which is where I was at right before business school, the Associated Press more recently, which I left in 2018 to build Work Bigger full time, Group M, so very familiar with the media space. As a coach, I'm trained with the Neuro Leadership Institute. I've actually been studying professional development for 15 years informally, but have my training from NLI, the Neuro Leadership Institute. What they do is they combine neuroscience with leadership development. And I find that is just a great way to make a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about here today more practical. I'm going to bring them into our conversation. But yeah, I'm really, really passionate about this space. I've been coaching for several years now. And yeah, that's my background in terms of like why I started Work Bigger and where my training comes from.
Yeah, that's amazing. So today's topic, we clearly had a lot of people interested in it. It's on everybody's mind, but right now there's a lot of stress and anxiety, especially for people who might be going through a career change or trying to find a new job. There's a lot of circumstances out of their control. And So let's talk about what they do have control over, because it's not worth stressing over things you can't control sometimes. So how can people best use the time that they have right now?
Yeah. Yeah. I actually started thinking about this like literally, like right as I started quarantine, which was almost 3 weeks ago. I was like, this is crazy. And I know like companies are going to have hiring freezes. There's obviously a lot of shifts happening. We're hearing all of these numbers around unemployment and what the job loss numbers are going to be, which I think is really overwhelming and right away puts us in a fear state. So at a high level, as I've been processing all these changes myself and for the Work Bigger community, I think there's three things that we can do right now. One, the first place to start is really taking care of our mental health and our mindset. Our mental health is a core human need, right? That we have that's absolutely needed for survival, right? Forget thriving, we need it to survive. And I think this is a time where we can really buckle down and focus on that. And a lot of the anxiety that's coming up, I think, is an opportunity for us to lean into that. So I can talk a little bit more about that. The second thing we can do is really change our strategy when it comes to career change. Before, I've seen a lot of people, like the way they typically apply to jobs, and I see this in Work Bigger too. Sam, I'm sure you guys see it in Fairygodboss, is applying to jobs online and sending out resumes and all of the frustration that comes as a result of that. And I've always been a big believer, because I've done that. I've been through that road myself, and it was painful. It was not successful. Now is really a time to change strategies and to go inward and to think more deeply about what you want to accomplish, what the impact is that you want to make in the world. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what it looks like to find your mission and to use that time to go inward. And then the third thing that I think we can do, and we already saw some questions come in through this, is leverage this time for networking if that feels good for you. I think we're at a time where connection is really needed right now, right? We're all isolated in our homes. So thinking about, like building connections at this time, I don't think that that's a loss. Like, yes, events are suspended. We're not going out, we're not meeting people, but I actually see so much activity online and opportunity. So we can chat a little bit more about that as well. But at a high level, it's those three things: mindset, mental health, finding your mission, and then networking.
Awesome. So let's dig into the first one. Let's talk about mental health. So what are some things people can do to help work through the anxiety and stress that they might be feeling right now?
Yeah. So the first thing I want to say is, if you have, and not if, right? I feel like we all do, right? You're experiencing a lot of anxiety, overwhelm, fear, right? There are a lot of emotions, grief, right? A lot of us have experienced loss of something, right? At one point or another, these several weeks, and there's, the stress it's not over. So the first thing I would say is find the space and the time to really allow yourself to feel all of those feelings. What I feel like we do outside, like when we're not in coronavirus times, right? It's typically what we're used to doing is really resisting all of the anxiety, and we're used to resisting all the stress because it doesn't feel good. And the way we do that is by doing it, by staying in action. So if you're experiencing a lot of that anxiety, lean into it. Give yourself some space to allow that and to move through it. And I'll talk a little bit about the brain and why that's important. But really, the only way to the other side is to allow those emotions, right? You almost have to move through them. The way to do that, I mean, there's so many different things you can do. For me, journaling works really well, like just sitting down and writing what's present for me, asking myself questions like, what am I feeling right now? Right? What does my body feel like? Right? So just anything that helps me get out of my head. Also asking myself, like, what is it that I need? Like, what does support for me look like right now? Is it talking to a friend? Is it talking to my husband? Like, what do I need? So I think journaling can be really powerful just to get it out of your head. The other thing, like little activities like puzzling, can just be so soothing, right? You kind of like get lost in time, you get in the zone, and I find it can almost distance you a little bit from that anxiety. You can have some space from it and then come back and, see if it's still there. Other things like meditation, which I know unless you've been practicing, it can be hard to do that, but putting on some music and just closing your eyes, things like that, I found to be really helpful. And I want to talk a little bit about why it's so important to work on our mental health right now. So I'll share a little bit about the brain and really what happens when we are feeling all of this, like, stress. So essentially, the brain really operates in two ways. There's the away state, I'm going to call it the away state, and the toward state. And what happens when you're in the away state, you are in a place of fight or flight. Your body's releasing cortisol, which is the stress hormone, right? So when something comes up for you, right, like you're seeing all this stuff around the job market, it's triggering stress. Essentially, the stress, you're in fight or flight. So think about like what you're feeling, right, is like the negative feelings, maybe anger, sadness, frustration. All of that stuff is okay, but I want you guys to link it to the behavior, right? So when you're in that place of anxiety, think about some of the actions that you're taking just to make the results a little bit more tangible. When we're in fight or flight, we're either running away, right? So we're avoiding, right? Or we're reacting, like we're in reactive mode. We're not really thinking about what's happening with intention. We're not being thoughtful. Our body's just trying to survive. That is all we care about. That is what our brain is designed to do. It's really designed to protect us. That's what's happening in the away state. A lot of us are in the away state right now because of what's happening in the world. On the other side of that, the toward state is the complete opposite. It's when you're in the toward state, you're in a place of possibility. Okay, you're feeling more grounded. You're feeling more confident, more healthy. Emotions that are associated with the toward state are things like joy, positivity, excitement, right? Happiness. And what's happening in our bodies when we're in the toward state is our body, like we're releasing dopamine. And dopamine is the thing that gives us momentum to take action, right? So when you're coming from that place, the actions you're taking are very different. Our behaviors look very different from the away state, right? We're being proactive, but it's coming from like an energized place. Okay, we're applying to jobs, but it's with clarity. It's not from that reactive state of like, I have to hurry up and get that next job. And it's more of this like place of desperation. So the results that we can create for ourselves when we're in that toward state, they're just very different. And I wanna share that both of those are okay. It's part of the human experience to be both in the away state and the toward state. One can't exist without the other. So allow the away state, but the reason I want to build awareness around the toward state is because that's where you can start to see more opportunities and more possibilities. So just like I'm sure so many of you guys here, like I find it really stressful when I see like CNN announcing, oh, unemployment's potentially going to go up to 20%. Like, how are those numbers? Like, maybe, but things like that, I think they cause so much stress. And what we're missing is there's a lot of opportunities, right? Like Sam, I've been following the Fairygodboss job boards. You guys are sharing a lot of job opportunities that are out there. I actually see a lot of industries that are growing right now. So yes, there are hiring freezes happening, but there's also a ton of companies that are still hiring, and you can only find those opportunities when you are, you're taking care of your mental health and you're like working on that possibility mindset.
Like Belma was saying, I think it's really an important point and a good framework that she started off here talking about how your mindset can completely affect, what you're doing, and taking those small moments of the day just to, meditate for 10 minutes in the morning or do a puzzle on the weekend, can really change, the state of your mind and can really set you up for a really successful, job search and all that great stuff. Cool. So let's get on to the second thing you mentioned at the beginning here. So you told us about adopting a new career change strategy. So how can people use this time wisely and do that?
Yeah, so this I'm going to talk about a framework on finding your mission. So this is something that I created this because of something that I needed in my 20s and didn't have access to. And whether you're in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, 50s, it doesn't matter. I think this is something that we should have learned when we were probably back in school and just thinking about our careers. But in terms of, again, like just going back to what I was saying before, what I see a lot of people doing usually when they're in a career change is, applying to jobs online, maybe speaking to different people, looking for opportunities, right? We're even taught in school, like network, 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 and that's fine. But what I think is really missing is the mission piece. Like, what is it that you want to do, right? There's a lot of conversation around finding your passion, and I think that's really misleading. That question was a huge struggle for me. I spent years trying to find my passion, and really what we really need to do is find our mission. They're very different things. Passion is a part of your mission, but passion it can be fleeting, right? You could be really into cooking, you can't parlay that into a career. They're very different things. Your mission, on the other hand, when you're pursuing a mission, right, you're focused, you're grounded, you're pursuing something bigger than yourself. And the not only is the job search strategy and like the job search process a lot better because you're deeply connected to your work and to what you're doing, and you really believe in what you're pursuing. But when you actually make that move, and when you have that career and it's coming from that mission driven place, you're connecting with it emotionally. And essentially that is what we want as humans, right? It's not that's why we hear so many people say, I want to make an impact, I want to feel fulfilled in my job. And that's really because deep down what we need is a mission, a purpose. Just like mental health, purpose is a core human need. We have four core human needs: mental, right? Mental health, emotional wellness, purpose, and then physical well-being. So if you are one of those people who's been trying to figure out what it is they want to do with their career for a long time, and you've been looking to make an impact and you've struggled, that doesn't make you crazy. It's because you have a core need as a human to find purpose. So I'll talk through the framework, and I've also put together a workbook for you guys around this, which we're going to send you after the webinar. You're going to get resources, you're going to get this workbook, and you're also going to get I'll send out an audio training on the brain so that you have it and can work on some of the mindset stuff that I mentioned. But basically, finding your mission requires 3 steps. One is identifying your why and what drives you. That really means getting clear on your passions, right? Getting clear on your interests, getting clear on your values, what you stand for. Also looking at your personal experiences, your pain points, the stuff that we don't want to look at, the stuff we don't want to go back and think about, right? How have those things shaped who you are as a person, right? Your why really comes from that place. So once you're clear on that, really understanding what it is that drives you, the second step is figuring out the how. That's what your strengths are. And that's about identifying, how do I contribute value to the organization in a way that's unique to me? That's where really, it means just understanding your skill set, right? And what you're good at. Then the third piece is the what. That's the job role, right? So your job role is going to change throughout your life. No matter how excited you are about your job, you're never going to be in the same job like your whole career. We don't see that anymore. It's not realistic, right? So the what can change, but really what keeps you grounded, what keeps you going is the why. And what I would love everybody to do to get clear on that why, what's really required right now is self-reflection and taking the space and the time that you need to go deep and understand who it is that you are and who it is that you want, or what it is that you want. And, doing that deeper work, it's inner work. And that's my ask for everyone, that, no matter where you are in your career journey, that you spend time with yourself to figure that out. And it's a different strategy. When you do that, you have very different conversations with employers. It's no longer about the tasks that you're going to do in your job. It's about the impact that you're going to make and how you're going to add value. And that's what employers want to hear. That's how you'll connect with them in a much deeper way. So I'll pause right there, and yeah, see what questions you have, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. Is it's not about, I love that phrase, it's not about the task you're doing, but the impact you're going to have. They don't want to see that, you'll be able to do a report for them, but they want to see that you're going to add value to their company. And so, especially now that you have that time, take that time to self-reflect. I think that's something a lot of us don't take the time out of our day to do. But I know you've probably seen 1,001 articles of what to do with your new commute time. And personally, I'm going to sleep a little bit longer with my my time that I save on my commute. But maybe the other half of it I could take to do some self-reflection. So that's a really great point that you made there. So let's move on to talking about networking. We received a ton of questions from the audience ahead of time. I also caught one before that we had from the audience all about networking. So I'm just going to run through their questions and then kind of sum them up so everybody knows the framework here. We had some people ask how you network for remote positions, how you network online as everybody's transitioned to working remotely, how you build connections in an area you don't really know, especially right now. So I think everybody's kind of just asking, like, what are some networking strategies that you recommend right now in this new remote world?
Yeah, so before all of this stuff went down, I've always stressed connecting to communities and networking from there, because when you're part of a community, you are part of a place where you have shared values, right? And similar goals. And networking, right? It's really connecting. It becomes so much easier because you're connecting with people, yeah, who are kind of like already in your circle. You're there, ready to help each other. I think especially when you're a part of a community, there is a community mindset that's present, which is, I'm here to receive help, but I'm also here to give help. So I would say that hasn't changed. See what communities resonate with you. Obviously, Fairygodboss is an incredible one. I've spent some time there myself, and I love it. Everybody's willing to help. The Work Bigger community is another great place to start. We're focused a lot on group coaching and offering support through coaching, but we share a lot of opportunities on Instagram too. Other places, Dreamers and Doers is another really good one. That one is for, I would say, mostly for founders, but it's become pretty mixed. If they have a free Facebook group, Dreamers and Doers Jobs and Gigs, if you wanted to check that out. But I would say, think about what communities are present that resonate with you, see who you can connect with there, and don't be afraid to ask for help. I think right now is a time when a lot of people feel helpless, and we know, right, that the job market, it has changed a lot. So I think a lot of people are going through that struggle. A lot of people are experiencing layoffs and pay cuts. And with that, I think there's a willingness to support. So I say start with the digital communities, see what, there's also a lot happening on Zoom. I feel like there's like a million Zoom calls going on, but leverage those. This is more of a tip. So I think just sticking with a community. So I'm a big fan of cultivating a community mindset, right? So that means if you're struggling to find a community that really resonates with you, I would say, is that something that you can create for yourself, bringing a group of 2 or 3 or 4 friends together who you know are kind of maybe going through a similar struggle around the job search, and see how you can support each other. Maybe it's keeping each other accountable with applying to positions, keeping an eye out on the market together. So building that community, creating accountability for each other, and seeing if you can lean on each other too for connections and support.
Yeah, no, I think that's really great advice. It's funny that you said that. We have a webinar coming up. It's called Build Your Hiring Tribe. It's kind of about that exact topic. It's how you can go about finding people and recruiting them to be in your so-called tribe. These are people who are close friends maybe, but also maybe people that you don't know so well, and how to recruit them to kind of, help you and how you can help them in the future. But especially now, you're not alone in this. We're all kind of making our way through it. So don't be afraid to reach out for help. I mean, you can start on Fairygodboss, you can post anonymously. So if you're really afraid, go on there, make a post, see if you can find anybody to connect with. But then past that, I mean, reach out to all your networks that you know, your alumni groups, your LinkedIn groups, your LinkedIn network, your Facebook friends even. I mean, somebody is going to know somebody who works, you know, in the industry that you want to work in or the company. I always like to say it's a very small world out there. So, you know, just don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Sam. I think starting with your immediate network is the best place to start. And also just to make the networking easier, like get clear on, like before you get on those calls, get clear on, I call them knowledge gaps. Like what are the gaps that you're looking to fill? Like really, where are you struggling? So you can leverage those conversations to be really meaningful and to move the needle for you. So just spending some time thinking through like, what are my struggles? What am I feeling vulnerable about right now? And how can I bring that to this call so that I'm making real progress? One of my biggest issues always, like since college, has been, you know, when I would have career counselors be like, show up this way to the networking conversations and make sure you check all of these boxes. And I was like, God, that feels so inauthentic, you know, and it
Mm-hmm.
just doesn't feel good. So use this time to really cultivate true connection that's going to serve you for the job search, but then even beyond that. And I think like it'll take some of that pressure off too, that comes with applying to places.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. All right, let's get on to a positive note here. So where do you see opportunities for people right now?
Yeah. So we've been following this closely in Work Bigger, and a lot of our members, it's really cool to see just everybody's like keeping an eye out for each other and sharing opportunities or places that are hiring. So I think, you know, obviously a lot of industries are contracting, like the hospitality industry, travel, all of that stuff. And what I always go back to think about like where the opportunities are and where they might be is looking at it in two different ways. One is like what are our core essential needs right now as humans, because that's where all of our resources are going to, right? So obviously, like I said, mental health. So I see digital health opportunities there. I think online therapists are going to be really important because, again, mental health is a core need and we need to work on that. Other areas, actually, hold on, I've been writing this down to make sure I track. I think I haven't followed like how Peloton is doing. My gut is companies like Peloton are probably going to be doing well because we're not able to go to the gym anymore. So again, like anything with digital health that's bringing that into the home. Um, Toilet paper companies are up; those are doing well. Online education, I heard Teachable was recently acquired. They're definitely hiring. I saw some roles there. Social media roles, so a lot of stuff going on online. Tech, like Zoom is like doing amazing right now. So I think it's really helpful to like look at the companies, the industries that are contracting, right? And a lot of them, some of them are like restaurants, hospitality, all of that. But if we can think about it like from an essential human needs, I see a lot of growth in like certain tech companies. Amazon is hiring like 100,000 employees. That's what I see. Sam, are you seeing anything on your end? I've been following too the stuff Fairygodboss has been sharing.
Yeah, no, we are seeing a lot of different areas that, you know, despite saying, oh, this company cut X amount of people, there are so many other companies that are hiring, like Bella said, hundreds of thousands of new employees to keep up with demand right now. And quick plug for a new feature on Fairygodboss. We just launched our new professional profiles and quick apply. We launched with 12 companies that are actively looking to hire more women. These are words they have said to us. They're looking for female talent. They are looking for you. These companies include 3M, Boston Consulting Group, CDW, Frontier Communications, Hanover Insurance, HP, Mercedes-Benz, PepsiCo, Protiviti, Qualtrics, Siemens, and Toyota North America. Those are big names. You've heard of them. I'm sure one of them has made it onto your list at some point or would be of interest to you. So if you're looking for a job, I'm going to include a link to how you can fill out your new professional profile. These companies are accepting one-click job applications. It will take you no more than 5 minutes to apply for a job, and they actively want to hire more women. So it's not about, looking for XYZ company. It's just looking at a plethora of different opportunities, looking places maybe you hadn't done before. Like Velma said, like changing your strategy a little bit. I know a lot of people are so prone to just hitting boom, apply to 1,000 different companies. Maybe refine your search, find your why a little bit more, and find your match. So I'll include a link afterwards so everybody can have access to that. But that's a really great opportunity that we just launched. And timing wise, I guess the current environment could have been better, but at the same time, we're happy to offer just more resources to help you find jobs. So those are all the questions I had for you, Belma, but we had a ton of audience questions come in throughout. So let's start moving into those. The first question here. Okay, we had a lot of people ask about making a career change in the middle of a crisis, which I'm sure it's very stressful. So the first question is, will I lose all of my job security by changing careers in the middle of this pandemic?
Will I lose all of my job security by changing careers? To me, the question is like, what are you shifting to?
Yeah.
Right? If you're looking at the market and just following like which industries are growing and which ones are not only just contracting, but contracting also temporarily, right? I think some places are going to be impacted for the long term, others less so. So really just think about like, what are you transitioning to? And job security, I think if anything, this time has shown us that like, what is job security, right? It's like, it's kind of, there's so much uncertainty right now. I would say if changing careers is a goal that you've had before this all hit, like just follow your gut there, right? And use this as an opportunity to explore what that could look like for you. And think about the brain and the away state and the toward state that I mentioned. So when you think about making decisions, think about, is this coming from a place of fear, right? And if it's coming from a place of fear, what's the choice that I want to make? Or is this coming from a toward state? Am I coming from a place of possibility? And how does that actually feel when I pursue that or when I follow that? And allow that to be your guide in terms of making a decision here, right? Because I know times are uncertain, but if you've been craving that career change, now might be a good time to really pursue it. And just look at the market and the industries and some of the opportunities we talked about.
Yeah. If you're afraid of changing careers simply because of job security, I don't think that should be the number one thing holding you back. Always think practically when you're making a career change. If you're going from, let's say, healthcare and you want to maybe work in retail, maybe now isn't the best time to do it. But then again, think about your why, think about what you're doing, and maybe there is a way that you can leverage, your past knowledge to help you get a prime position in a retail company that you're looking for. So it really just depends on the context, I think. Okay, another person asking about career change. Just want to make sure we didn't answer this already. Do you have any advice, I guess, for someone who's looking for work in a new field at a time when most companies aren't hiring, I guess, in this field? That's tough.
Yeah, and actually, Sam, if I can share, there's a company that put out a hiring freezes list that people in Work Bigger have shared. Can I share that with everyone?
Yeah, of course.
So it's really awesome. They're updating this live. It's candor.co/hiring freezes. Have you heard of this list, Sam?
Candor, C-A-M?
Candor. I can share it here.
Yeah, if you want to pop it in the chat. I have not heard of that.
Yeah. Okay, so take a look at this one, everyone. I think this is so cool. Let me just pull up the chat. Okay. This is a list of companies, and they're updating this live, that are currently implementing hiring freezes and layoffs. So yeah, take a look at, if your industry is not doing well right now, just maybe your company is listed here. Yeah, but I think, does that answer the question? I don't remember what the exact question was.
The person was just any advice for if you're looking for a new field. And I think that's a great place to start. Just look to see if the company is even hiring right now. Don't waste your time and apply for a company that just made a massive round of layoffs, you know?
Yeah.
I guess, do you have any other tips for somebody who might be looking for a job where they don't have a lot of connections and maybe most of the companies aren't hiring, but a few are?
Yeah, what comes to mind for me is this is something that I advise work bigger clients too. It's like, what is, if you, it depends on where you are in the job search. If you need something, you need to pay the bills right now. Think about what is your lowest hanging fruit, right? What are those opportunities that are going to be easier to get right now? Go for those. And if this is an industry, you know, the current company you want isn't hiring right now, is there a way to maintain connections? Get in touch with them somehow, build relationships there so that when the market picks back up, essentially you're more prepared to make a move. And you're also kind of keeping the pulse on when they are removing those hiring freezes. The sooner you can be in the know about that, the faster you can act.
Yeah, that's great advice. We had a question come in here that I really like, and it's tough, just a warning, but it's from an anonymous attendee. She says, I'm in the process of discovering my why, and I'm finding that there are some limiting beliefs that are holding me back. For instance, I feel like I'm too old to make a career change, and frankly, if I'm not, I have to be realistic about the ageism in the workplace, which is very real. How do I address this?
Yeah, so I want to acknowledge you for being aware of the limiting belief, right, that's holding you back. So the first thing that I would say is, one, what is the feeling that this brings up in you when you're out there and you're applying, right? Like, what is the actual emotion? Can you label that? Because if you can label that, it can sort of, it's a good anchor and it's a good place to start. And then think about, like, what are the thoughts that you're having? And also, what is the impact that these thoughts and these emotions are creating for you? So if you know this is a limiting belief, right, and you feel yourself, maybe it's doubt that's coming up for you when you're about to apply, right? How is it holding you back? What are the results that you're creating in your life because of this belief? And that's the first place to start, I think, building awareness of when this limiting belief shows up. And I'll tell you, if it's showing up here, it's probably showing up in other places. So the first thing to do is really just to be aware of it. It's really difficult to identify like mental and emotional patterns and habits that hold us back. So once you are aware of that, then you can start to make different choices. Then you can choose, like, okay, I feel the self-doubt, right? I feel nervous that my age is going to be an issue here. I'm going to apply anyway, right? I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to go for that job anyway. So the awareness, with the awareness is when you can start to choose something differently. And then, yeah, and then I also want to acknowledge the bias that exists out there, for sure, right? That is a circumstance in many ways, right? So there's a lot of things that we can control when it comes to bias, right? Or like systemic bias, right? So in terms of ageism, sexism, racism, right? So thinking about, in that case, again, what is within your control here, and just having that awareness and making the choice, you know, despite that. And then also the other thing that comes to mind is just what can you do to like find those companies where you know that ageism isn't an issue. And to me, that it comes from like facilitating those connections and being in the know. But sometimes like that also happens, and I want to be real about that, right? We face that bias, and it's difficult and it sets us back. And I want to be also real about that, and I don't want to like minimize that as an issue that exists, because I understand that's challenging. But in terms of the limiting beliefs, I hope that's helpful, just in helping you think about like what do I have control over, and what can I do here for myself in this case.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And Balma, just a note, I think you have something by your speaker. It was just rattling just a little bit, causing some feedback.
Maybe
But
my
no worries. Maybe that was it. No, not a problem at all. Yeah, we could still hear you though, so it wasn't a problem.
Okay,
but
cool.
yeah, I mean, ageism is really tough, but I think Belma made a great point about change your mindset, and also looking for companies that aren't for lack of a better word, ageist. I don't really know how to phrase that correctly, I suppose. But just look for company culture. Look at the employees who work there. Try and make connections, and try and find out more information about how there's maybe cross-generational teams. Is there a multi-generational workforce, or are they just putting somebody over the age of 50 on their career boards just to make it look good? Try and get at the heart of the matter, I suppose. And that should give you more assurance too when you're applying for roles there, that they truly value age diversity in their company, or, if it's the other way around and maybe it's a company you might want to stay away from at this time. But the first part of your question, feeling like you're too old to make a career change, don't let that hold you back. I would just say, I don't think anybody, it's ever too late. I love those posts about how like Oprah and all these other, like Martha Stewart, didn't start their insanely successful companies until they were well into their 40s or something like that. It's never too late, I would say, to that point. And now I only see one more question. So if you have any more, feel free to leave them in the Q&A and we'll get to them. But an anonymous attendee left the question: I know mass applying to roles is not recommended, but I worry that if I don't do it, I won't get my resume in front of enough companies. Is there a good balance? I love that question. I think a lot of people think the same thing.
Yeah, sure. And what I'm hearing with that question is I'm actually hearing fear there, right? How did you phrase it? I worry that if I don't do that, I won't get my resume in front of enough companies. So it's like, yeah, there's fear there. That this is a strategy that's driven from fear, and that's okay. And I just reflect that back to you just to be aware of it, right? And sure, like that is a strategy that you can go for and you can try. And I would ask you to look at the results, like how's it going, right? You can spend time applying. How's it going? How are you feeling? Are you feeling exhausted? Are you feeling burned out? Is it getting you in your results, right? So look at the results. You can choose to take that action. You can choose to go that route, but then measure it for yourself. Like just see what the results are. And yes, there is a balance, right? You can choose to spend 30% of your time applying online to help balance some of that fear, right? And then like it's okay to have that, especially right now, and then spend the other 70% building connections and participating in communities and putting yourself out there in those ways. So think about your time allocation and think about what feels really good, and go back to what I said about the brain state, right? What actually feels like for you, feels expansive. It's coming from a place of opportunity. It's coming from a place of possibility. This excites me more. What does that strategy look like? I would ask you, right? And if you can identify that, sure, balance, like spend some time doing both.
Yeah, sorry, I was speaking and I still was muted.
No worries.
I have an ambulance going by every 5 seconds, so I do that. But yeah, that's a great point. Like, if mass applying has worked for you, stick with it. But if it hasn't, reevaluate that, and maybe start exploring new processes to fix that going forward. Cool. So I think we've gotten everybody's questions in. So I want to say thank you again, Velma, so much for your time. It was lovely having you here today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Sam, is it okay if I share just ways to stay connected with me, with Work Bigger, all that good stuff?
Do.
Yeah. And I just thank you, Sam, for taking the time to chat, and thank you everybody for joining. I want you all to know, like, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me after. My email is b@workbigger.co. Sam and I are also going to share some resources. I'm going to send you a workbook on finding your mission and really spending some time to go inward right now and to do that self-reflection. And I highly recommend that you work on it, especially if what I shared resonated with you. I think this is the time to really take care of yourself. Once you get that, you'll also get a training on the mind that I shared. So just work through those resources. And the second thing I want to share is, if what I've talked about here today resonated with you and you're looking for more support on mindset and finding your mission, our group coaching membership, I've opened it up for right now, and I'm taking private calls this week to chat through it. So Sam, do you want to share that link, or should I share it?
I have it
But
scheduled in the follow-up email, so it's already in there. It'll be very clear what the link is.
awesome. Okay, so yeah, so I'm just making 30-minute calls available. If you guys want to take advantage of that, we can chat about what exactly you need to work through your career struggles right now, and if also the group coaching membership for Work Bigger makes sense for you. We've added a lot of calls this month to offer more group coaching. Given everything that's going on, I really want to be able to support all of our members in a bigger way. So just know that that is available for you this week to take advantage of. Sam's going to send out the link. And yeah, I think that's it. Did any questions come through, or?
Nope, somebody asked for your email. It'd be at workbigger.co, right?
Yeah, be at workbigger.co. And also, I've been sharing a lot of these opportunities that I talked about here, especially around mindset, finding your mission, on our Instagram, which is at workbigger. So,
awesome. Perfect.
Yeah, follow us
all
there.
of that info will be included in the follow-up email, along with a recording, as well as a link to complete your professional profile, which I talked about. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And thank you again, Belma, for a wonderful talk.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe and take care. And thank you, Sam.
Yeah, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll catch you all at the next one. Bye.
Bye.